Welcome back to Hardball. After voting for TARP and telling voters not to listen to Glenn Beck too much, South Carolina Republican Congressman Bob Inglis got outvoted in his primary this year. Now he's offering up some very honest advice for his party and some very scary stories from his time on the trail. Here's how Mr. Inglis described one campaign donor meeting to David Cornett and Mother Jones. Quote, "They say, Bob, what don't you get? Barack Obama's a socialist, communist, Marxist who wants to destroy the American economy so he can take over as dictator. Healthcare is part of that. And he wants to open up the Mexican border and turn the United States into a Muslim nation." Congressman Inglis joins us tonight from Greenville, South Carolina. Well, that was a funny conversation. Somebody actually thought that the Muslims would be pouring over the Mexican border. The Rio Grande protects us from Islam. These people got a problem.
I guess so. I think it's generally not seen as a Muslim nation, but Mexico isn't.
Well, what is it? Let's talk about the conspiracy theories. What is it that's gotten into your party's water supply, Republican Party's water supply, that makes them so strangely hostile to the president, not just against his policies, but personally? Is it race?
Well, I think that what we've lost is respect for the facts. And really across the political spectrum, both Democrats and Republicans need to have respect for the facts. I'm right down the street right now from Michelin's North American headquarters. One of their core values, Chris, is respect for the facts. That's what we need in Congress. What's happening, I think, is that people are departing from facts. So on my side, we end up calling the president a socialist, for example. He's not a socialist. On the Democratic side, they say that we want to destroy Social Security. That's not true. So we need to have respect for the facts and agree on what are the facts. We can have our opinions about the policy prescriptions from those facts, but you can't have your own view of the facts.
Are you surprised that only a minority of Republicans, about a quarter, are willing to say for sure that the president's a born American? It's about 23% now, according to the latest polling. Just 23% say, yeah, he's an American.
There's another one. I mean, we really need to be clear about that. We don't need to waste time while we're facing these enormous fiscal challenges that we face talking about whether the president's a citizen of the United States or not. He's clearly a citizen. And so we should move on from that and talk about, okay, what are you going to do about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and interest on the debt? That's 60% of what we're spending right now. If we do nothing, by 2050, it's 90% of the budget.
Would they be saying this about him if he had a different ethnic background? I mean, we have the Honolulu newspaper that shows that he was born on a certain date in 1961. I don't know about you, Congressman, but I didn't have a birth announcement in the newspaper when I was born. It's pretty transparent that the guy was born in our country, and yet there's these people that keep saying, well, I don't know, really. He might be one of us. He's probably not, or probably is. Is it because his name's Barack Obama? Is this because he's black? Why do they keep saying they don't know if he's American or not? They never said this about any president we've had.
I think they don't hear what you just said, and more people need to say it. I said at town hall meetings, I can tell you got me in a lot of trouble, I told them, you know, it'd be one thing to see a conspiracy to alter the records in the official office and birth records in Hawaii, but to go back and to change two newspapers reporting of the births of babies at the hospital, that'd be pretty tough to pull off. It is complicating the fact that, you know, his international parentage, and that works out to be some questions, I guess, that are raised. But really just, we need to have people look at the facts and see that the newspapers reported that. Just like in the old days when I was born, I was just a little bit ahead of the president. It was announced in the paper that you were born. And so that's pretty good evidence that he was actually born in Hawaii, I should think, and we should settle that question and move on to the really hard things.
Do you realize, well, I'm sure you have thought it for a bit because you've had to confront this, that that would require someone to believe, who actually believes that they made up this guy's identity, that way back in 1961, 50 years ago, somebody sat around and said, let's have a kid, let's have him born to an African father, let's make it as impossible as possible to be elected president, let's make sure he has a name like Barack Obama, and then let's try to get him elected president in about 40 or 50 years. I mean, it's so crazy, it's got to be paranoid. Let me ask you about the 14th Amendment. One of the prides of the Republican Party coming after the Civil War was to pass the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which gave, you know, freedom and citizenship and voting rights, at least federally, to African Americans after they were freed as slaves, after hundreds of years of free labor, basically. And now the Republican Party, led by people like Kyle and Lindsey Graham and even Grassley and McCain, are out there saying, let's get rid of that 14th Amendment as written because it allows people born here to become automatic citizens. Well, it's the way I became a citizen. I was born here. That's how I got to be a citizen. I didn't go through any paperwork. It's the way you probably became a citizen. Most African Americans have been here so many centuries, nobody would challenge their citizenship. But what's it about? And how can you change it? I don't even know how you can rework it because you never know who the father is in most cases. It could be anything that the mother says, whoever the father is, if it was a matter of citizenship.
Yeah, it's a good point that you would have to prove paternity, and obviously maternity is easier to prove because the baby's just been born. But I think what we need to first acknowledge is if you can change this, it is a constitutional change. I've heard a fancy legal argument that you don't need to change the Constitution, but it is a pretty fancy legal argument. Since I'm a strict constructionist, I want to read the words of the Constitution and apply them. Those words clearly say if you're born here, you're a citizen. So if you want to change that, you got to change the Constitution. And the thing that I hope we go very slow on is not getting to the place that Western Europe has gotten, which is that people can't ever quite become citizens. If they've come there in a low socioeconomic status, they can never quite break through. And as a result, you have this underclass that is constantly gunning for the upper class. That's not the American model. What we want is you're here, you become a citizen. That's what we want. We don't want you to come in here and stand for a while. We really want you to become a citizen, cast your lot with us.
You know, it's so obvious, but I can't resist asking this. I got to ask this question. If we had about 1 million Heidi Klums trying to cross the Mexican border into the United States, you know, the gorgeous blonde from Germany or whatever, do you think there'd be any problem with immigration right now, or is it really just ethnic, the people from a different ethnic background? If Heidi Klum by the million was trying to cross the border, I figure a lot of guys would be down there welcoming her personally. What's your view? I want to make this a little ludicrous because I think it's obvious it's ethnic, and I want people to just to admit it.
Yeah, I think there is clearly something ethnic going on here. It's happened before. You know, the Irish were discriminated against because of a different religion or a different slice of that religion. But you know what's really interesting here is that compared to Western Europe, we've got a pretty great situation. There's nobody that's strapped a bomb on themselves from Mexico and blown themselves up and taken out Americans. They want to be Americans. They want to be part of us. Yeah. They got the same religion. They got the hope of becoming Americans. It's a very different scenario than a lot of people face. Now, we do need to have control of the border. We do need to have an orderly process. We can't accept everyone coming here all at once. I can't have everybody over in Greenville County to my house tonight for dinner and destroy the house. So we got to have a way of controlling this. But we should compare ourselves to Western Europe and say, wow, we're in great shape compared to them.
Yes or no, sir? Have you given up on the Republican Party? Yes or no?
No, I think that there are people that are capable in the Republican Party leading. I'd throw out, for example, Jeff Flake, a very credible conservative. Then we've got Jack Kingston, for example. Hope you have him on. He's the guy with the right kind of approach. And then, you know, we've got the Roadmap for America's Future. This is a plan that can actually work. I mean, we've got people with plans.
Yeah, Paul Ryan's got a good, he's working hard at that. I'm not sure I know all the elements yet, but I think I got it home to study. But thank you, sir. Congressman Bob Inglis of South Carolina. Thanks for joining us.